Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're talking about how I bought a motorcycle in my 20s. Start off with, yes, from the thumbnail wording, I crashed it. So before we get into how I crashed the motorcycle and my journey with it so far, I kind of want to talk about what got me into motorcycles. So as a kid, I was super huge into watching movies, obviously, like most of us were. YouTube movies, my generation, like quite a bit of generations now, except for the boomers. I watched a movie called Tron Legacy, and I got super hooked on this idea of riding a motorcycle, right? I thought it was super cool with the bike he was on, the light beams, and when you're a kid, your imagination's your imagination, but it got me super into motorcycles, and I'd always wanted one, but I wasn't financially able to buy one at that time or had the kahunas to do it. So eventually when it came time, I was about 21, living with my grandparents for about rent-free, and I was like, I kind of want to buy a motorcycle. Can you imagine what their response was when their grandson looked at them and said, I want to buy a motorcycle? Now mind you, my gramps has rode motorcycles pretty much his entire life until he got into his like late 50s, and then he stopped. So he didn't care. Grandma was a different story. So as you guys can imagine, we did not buy a motorcycle under their roof. We actually didn't buy our first motorcycle until we moved out. So me and Nicole were engaged, and we have found this apartment. And I was like, I want to learn how to ride a motorcycle. It is on my bucket list, and I want to live life with zero regrets, just like pretty much everyone says when they go to buy that motorcycle and tells everyone they're buying a motorcycle. When I bought the bike, I went to the dealership, and boy, do they try to run your pockets for a brand new motorcycle. And by the way, if I could start all over again, I would have bought a used bike off Facebook Marketplace, no ifs, ands, or buts. But I was so delusional on how bad I wanted that brand new bike, I went to the dealership and I bought it. Now, smart me, didn't like, they wanted to put on warranties, crazy fees. Bro, they had my Kawasaki up to almost 10 grand. $500, or Ninja 500 up to 10K. Insane, absolutely insane. So eventually, I did the whole, I don't think this is gonna work for me, start to walk away. Hey, I think we can figure this out. Somehow they figured it out. They got the bike down to like 7, I think it was, which still isn't amazing. I don't wanna hear it in the comments, but if you're gonna comment, just go ahead and tell me. But yeah, so I ended up buying the bike that day, and I hit the guy with, hey man, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get this home. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle, which I can imagine was not the first time he said that. He's like, nah, we'll get it to you. So eventually they get it to my grandparents after like, bro, I swear it took them like 2 weeks. I don't know what was happening, but it took forever. But they got it there, it was fine. It looked beautiful, and it still does to this day. It just has a little bit more character on it. So for the first week, I just sat there and stared. I got on a little neutral bomb, thought that was fun, but still too scared to actually get on the motorcycle, right? Because I've never ridden anything manual, never touched a motorcycle. Just a little experience, messed with like a dirt bike once, but that was very minimal experience, right? So the day comes where I'm finally like, all right, I want to learn how to ride this thing. It's December for sure. It's freezing. So I go out, and do not do what I do. I had no helmet on, no gloves, nothing. So I get it out of the driveway, and I'm riding back and forth on the street, and I'm probably on this thing for a maximum of 5 minutes. And the neighbors are looking at me from over here, the neighbors are looking at me from over there. There's some guys working on a house like looking at me, because there's some young kid on a motorcycle that looks like a goofball because he has no idea what he's doing. Dude, I must have stalled like 20 times. Like straight up, easily 20 times of stalling. And I had started to just barely get to moving, and I went like this, and I dumped the clutch, ripped the throttle because I got scared, and this is where everything goes south. I pretty much go bullseyeing into a drain. Yep, I hit a storm drain on the side of the house, and I was okay. I had like a little scrape right here. That wasn't what was okay. My brand new bike cracked the fairings, bent the shifter. I actually was more upset about the bike than my physical body. I know that sounds nuts, right? But it was like, holy shit, I just bought this bike and I crashed it. I was like, dude, there's no way, right? So what I had done was like any smart 20-year-old is, I went and got right back on the bike and I kept going. I'm so serious. I don't know what in my brain didn't connect, which I'm glad it didn't, because I was like, nope, don't care. I'm gonna learn how to ride this motorcycle. Do not care. I mean, you can't return it, by the way, once you crash it. Like, you can't return it once you buy it. It's not kind of like how there's no return policy, right? So it was my motorcycle. So either I have to sell a broken motorcycle or I learn to ride my motorcycle. So that's kind of where we went. So it took me a few weeks and I started to get a little more comfortable, and I went out and took my MSF. Pouring rain, freezing cold. We had to ride the bikes anyways. I did not do well on my first go around. I actually had to retake my MSF. And that was, by the way, builds character when the guy looks at you right in your face and goes, "You failed, come back next weekend." What? And I'll be honest, so the reason I failed my MSF is because I was just being super scared of the bike. And bro, that's on me. Not everyone's like that. I would actually say 90% of the people that are there to take their test have been riding for a lot longer than I had. I probably had 2 or 3 weeks under my belt, and I was just scared of the motorcycle. That's why I failed, by the way. To this day, it's why I crashed. I was, scared of the bike, which doesn't help, learning. I went home that day. Holy shit, man. I was so upset. And I was not upset with anyone but myself, because there's nothing I could have done but be frustrated with me. So I took that experience and I went and I kept riding. I rode probably for because something happened with the course and I couldn't take it for like another 2 or 3 weeks after, because the weather and stuff. We got snow and everything too. And I rode, and I got married. So it was definitely like almost another month, really. Edit that out at 7:58. So yeah, I got married and then I finally got to retake my test. Bro, this second time around was easy. I'd been riding now for a little bit. I got a lot more confident. The turns, the maneuvers, stopping, flying colors. I made some great friends that unfortunately don't ride to this day, because of, they had some not so great experiences on motorcycles. But the MSF is phenomenal because you get to learn, with people and how to ride. So if you're ever gonna learn to ride a motorcycle, please take the MSF course, bro. Please do it. But yeah, and with that being said, after I passed my MSF, bro, you shit you not, I rode everywhere. I have been riding this bike now for a year everywhere. I put a lot of miles on it. I even almost went and bought another motorcycle because I was like early on overconfident, crashed the bike, failed the MSF once. I was like, I can hop on a ZX6R. Went and looked at a ZX6R. I actually tell you the only reason I didn't buy that bike to this day is because when I said, how much would you give me for my 500 right now? They said $2,500. And I said, have a great day. It was phenomenal getting to meet you. And I kept it moving. And I'm so glad they offered me $2,500 because I probably would have bought that bike that day. And I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, so buying a motorcycle in your early 20s, at least my experience has been a blast so far. I've come into experiences where people have almost run me off the road. That's gonna happen, bro. You're riding a motorcycle, you're on 2 wheels, you're on a very small object. People drive like idiots. You're gonna have to be a defensive driver. If not, You got to be aware of your surroundings. So a couple things I just want to, remind you of while we're talking about this is buying gear. I'm not telling you go out and spend thousands on gear. You really don't have to. You need a good helmet, gloves, boots. Those are 3 minimum you need before getting on a motorcycle. Seriously, those are 3 minimal things you need. A jacket would be the next recommendation. I'm at 2 jackets now. I wear them I'm not gonna lie, I don't wear them all the time just because where I live, it gets 110, like it gets 105, it gets 110. I'm just not. But I won't say that for everybody because there's people I know, they'll wear that jacket no matter what, because again, you never know what's gonna happen. So the next thing would be pants. Haven't invested in those yet because, by the way, motorcycle gear is not cheap. I've always said this when I'm talking to friends, buy your gear first. Once you know you were gonna get a bike anyways, buy your gear first because that shit is not cheap. You could spend easily $1,000 to $2,000 on gear, and I'm so serious. And then you start talking backpacks and bike stands and stuff like you'll need for the bike. It's not a cheap hobby, bro. It never will be. So buy your gear first. Definitely recommend it. Get the right size for your gear too. You want it snug, bro. You don't want this loose fitting jacket. You want a jacket that's gonna fit right. You want a helmet that's not gonna wiggle around on your head. Mine at first did not feel great. Let me show you something real quick, chat. This is gonna sound weird, but I loosened my helmet up with this soccer ball. That's the only reason I have it. I pumped it full of air, put it in there, and yep, loosened my helmet up just like that. Small tidbit if you're ever wondering how to make your helmet fit better. Whew. So storing your bike and stuff, for me, I get lucky, bro. I got a garage with my apartment complex, and most of the time year round, I can actually ride my motorcycle. Probably about 1 month, and I still tend to ride it, is January, just because it gets cold, but every once in a while I get a 60-degree day, and I take it right on out. Now, you guys that are riding your bikes in 40, 50-degree weather, that's dope. I actually did that at first because I was a beginner, and I really wanted to ride my bike. Now, when I wake up at 6 in the morning, I want my coffee and a heat in my car. That's just how it is. So, yeah. Now, would I recommend getting a motorcycle in your 20s at the end of this video? Yes. Yeah, I would. Get the bike, bro. I mean, you get to live once. If you really you've committed to it, now you're just like talking yourself out of it, stop talking yourself out of it. Make sure you got the monies, because you're probably spending 5 to 10K on a bike. 5 to 10K on everything, if you're doing it right. Now, if you get a bike for $3,000 and it's just as good, do that. Groms, bro. No one's ever hated on a Grom. Groms are sick. But save your money. Take the MSF course, because that's like $400, but you learn a lot. You get your licensing through there super easy instead of going to the DMV. Definitely recommend that. Know where you're gonna store your bike, because you're not gonna ride your bike most of the time year round, like most, or like some. Like where I live, for example, deep south, you can get away with it. Most people aren't in the deep south. We got a lot of northerners and stuff, so you guys might have to store your bike in a garage for half the year, 3 to 4 months even. So yeah, think about that when you're, God, I can't stop yawning. Think about that when you're think about getting a bike. And what else? Bing, getting approval from other people. If you're gonna buy a motorcycle, you're under someone else's roof, and they tell you no, don't do it, bro. You can try to justify it. I've seen people make videos on it all the time, like, hey, mom, like, I save money on gas. They don't give a shit. They care about you. They don't care about what you want. So I recommend waiting till you can get out in your apartment or a house. You have your own place, because it's a lot easier. You don't need anyone else's permission, and you can work on your bike. That's one of the coolest things too. I didn't really talk about was working on your own motorcycle is so much fun. I've never done an oil change in a car or none of that until I got my motorcycle. Now, I don't do an oil change in my car now because my car doesn't take oil, not the flex. But I'm gonna flex. But yeah, so getting permission, just wait. Now, if it's like your significant other, you know, that's between you two, bro. You guys got to figure that out. But if you want that bike, you should have got it in your 20s. Sorry, guy that's watching this that's in his 30s and 40s. I'm talking to my brothers in their 20s and my sisters that are in their 20s. But yeah, I think that's mainly it, guys. Yeah. That's going to be the end of the video. Once again, this is another like in your 20s video because I'm going to try to start uploading these very, very often in the weeks, during the week. And I want to, you know, something you guys can click and watch and be like, oh, that's that guy that talks about his 20s. That's me. So anyways, guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you're thinking about getting a motorcycle, drop a comment down below which one you're thinking about getting, and I'll make sure to comment back. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. Let me show you the helmet real quick. That's the helmet. All right, peace.